What's up guys, and welcome back to another round of my 2019 F1 modded career mode here today for round number 3 at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. That is a good rhyme, I enjoyed that. But yeah, last time out we were in Bahrain, and of course if we went with the normal calendar we'd be in China now. But in order to get this series out before the release of F1 2019, the real game, I've shortened the calendar, which you can see on screen now. So of course we've already had 2 rounds this season, where we've had Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton win. And then we've got the remaining rounds of the season down below. So yeah, we're shortening it to a 10-round season. And I've tried to pick a few tracks that I don't necessarily do all the time, whilst mixing it in with a few favourites. So of course we've got Canada and Silverstone, and also Hockenheim, always favourites. And then mixing up with a few ones that I don't tend to do as often, like USA and Abu Dhabi. If you are happy to see this series back, do make sure to leave a like down below. Without further ado now, let's get into qualifying. So the sun is low here in Baku, which means it is time to get into qualifying. It's a race which is notoriously held quite late in the afternoon, so we've got a lot of shadows to contend with as we go onto this, our fastest lap of the session. So you can see in the top left corner that we are currently sat in P17 with this McLaren, which doesn't have a great deal of straight line speed on this game. Of course, in the 2019 season, it's actually had pretty decent straight line speed, but unfortunately, it hasn't translated so far. As we go into the first corner, not quite clipping that apex on the inside, but carrying plenty of speed on the run now down into turn 2. Slightly slower than our first attempt, but it's a good run through turn 2, not taking too much curb on the inside. And we're pretty much dead level with our first time in the session, just 2/100ths of a second down before braking between the 150 and 100 metre boards for turn 3. And it's just a series of 90-degree corners in this first sector. Not the most interesting, although scenery-wise, I do find it quite pleasant, that first sector in Baku. But anyway, we've gone through there pretty much identical to our time before, which isn't great considering that only landed us in at P17. But we've gained nearly 0.3 of a second on the run into turn 7 before we go into this infamous turn 8, flicking it left, the narrowest part of the F1 calendar, 7.6 metres through that castle section. And now we open the tanks on the run towards pretty much turn 15 is the next proper corner we have to go through. But we've got plenty of shadows to contend with as we break into this difficult corner. And we actually take quite a lot of curb there, running it out wide. But we are quite a bit up compared to our previous best time. 0.3 of a second is the gap as we go through turn 16, the final real corner on this circuit. We're 1.5 seconds off the current pole time. And as we go through the final few corners now, not having to brake, this is all about just trying to take the shortest run to the line, really. There's not much you can do apart from open the DRS, hope for the best on the run to the line. What is it going to be? And it is still P17. We've lost nearly a second in that final sector. So looking through the full grid then for this Azerbaijan Grand Prix, we've got Sebastian Vettel on pole alongside Valtteri Bottas, who has, of course, already taken a race win so far in this series and, of course, won the real-life Azerbaijan Grand Prix. In behind him, we've actually got the 2 Red Bulls who have locked out the second row, with Gasly ahead of Verstappen, with Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton on row 3. Not a great qualifying for the Mercedes man. And then it's Sergio Perez, the master of Baku, who is the best of the rest in P7, with Hülkenberg, Raikkonen and Magnussen rounding out the top 10. Robert Kubica, a good performance from him in the Williams in P13, something you wouldn't see in real life, with our teammate Carlos Sainz just 1 place ahead of us in 16th place, with Alexander Albon and Antonio Giovinazzi rounding out the grid. So on we go to the formation lap for this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And from now onwards in the series, we're actually going to be doing 25% races instead of 50%. But to compensate for the shorter race distance, I've added a lot more of the replay cameras. So hopefully it can be a bit more of an enjoyable experience and allow me to hopefully make the videos a little bit faster. But anyway, we're going to be lining up on the grid. Of course, we're going to be starting on the softest compound of tyre. And with it being a 25% race, it's only going to be a 1 stop. So we're going now to the 5 red lights here at Baku. And away we go. The lights were on for a very, very long time, but it's a reasonable start from ourselves. Of course, starting a long way down the order and possibly trying to go around the outside of our teammate, but no, we're very, very tentative into the first corner. Got the Williams of George Russell looking down our inside as Sainz has made a move on Ricciardo, but we're going to go down the inside of both of them. They left the door wide open as we've got yellow flags for somebody around us, but it looks as if we've got the move done on both Ricciardo and Sainz. We're ahead of our teammate already, who's going to be on the outside of us going in to turn 3. But we hold that inside line and hold the position. So P15 it is, and a decent start. Considering we started very low down. Now the next man we've got to overtake is Robert Kubica in the Williams. So you'd like to think that would be relatively easy. But of course he does have the Mercedes engine in the back of that car, which is going to make it quite difficult to overtake him on the straight. But as we now go into the tight, twisty part of this Baku circuit, you'd imagine we'll be able to stick with him through this middle sector. If we go through the infamous turn 8 and emerge into the beaming sunlight as we go through that right-left, which is very difficult, especially on exit. And you can see we've lost quite a bit of time to Robert Kubica now on the run down to turn 15. The penultimate real corner on this circuit, but we are bouncing over the curb there at turn 15, probably not the best exit, and actually we've got Carlos Sainz right on our tail as we go through the final proper corner at turn 16, and now it's about a 20-second full throttle blast to the first corner, but it doesn't look like we're going to have a chance of overtaking Kubica because we're going to be looking behind us to Carlos Sainz, who's got a good run on us now as we go to the start-finish line. Fortunately, he doesn't have any DRS, but he pulls out of the slipstream, and it's going to be very, very tight between the two of us on the run to the first corner at the start of lap 2, and we break a little bit later than Sainz, who has to get out of it, and probably should have got out of the move a little bit earlier because he's ended up losing a position to Daniel Ricciardo. And our teammate down into P17, we stay in 15th place. And it's not great so far for us two McLaren boys, but we're going to take a look at the replay and see what happened up at the front of the grid. Of course, we were a long way back from this action. And of course, it was Sebastian Vettel on pole ahead of Valtteri Bottas. And it was a brilliant start from the German, as you can see, in that red Ferrari. Getting a lovely start with Valtteri Bottas in behind him, who's actually tussling with Pierre Gasly, trying to keep hold of P2. But of course, with Bottas having that Mercedes engine in the back, it was enough to keep ahead of the two Honda-powered cars behind him as we take a look at him here through turn 3. So the running order is Vettel from Bottas, and then in third place we have got Pierre Gasly, who of course started ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen, and that is still the case. And then we have got Lewis Hamilton down in P5. Of course, in real life, not his favourite circuit, Baku, although he has done alright in the last couple of years at the circuit. And then we've got Sergio Perez as the best of the rest. It wouldn't be Baku if Perez wasn't the best of the rest. So he's doing a decent job at the moment. But now we skip forward a little bit towards the end of lap 2. And we've actually got the Williams of Robert Kubica making a move. Yes, that is right, an overtake on Daniel Kvyat, is that, I believe. It's one of the Toro Rossos, and into turn 1, Kubica goes down the inside of the Toro Rosso driver, and they're going to be side by side through this first section of track, as Kubica gets a big lock-up through there, which compromises him and Kvyat, and that actually allows us to get right back in the game. We haven't had a great start to this Grand Prix. After the overtakes we made at turn 2, we haven't made a single other overtake. But we are now right on the tail of Robert Kubica, who has failed to get past Daniel Kvyat and probably hasn't done his tyres a whole lot of good in that process. Now we skip forward to the end of lap 3 and take a look at Sergio Perez, who fell behind Kimi Raikkonen and is now stopped in the last part of the circuit and has crashed into Kevin Magnussen. Absolute carnage here at the end of lap 3 as we come through turn 16 now to take a look at this carnage that is unfolded. So you can see Magnussen and Perez have just pulled off to the side. Magnussen not really voluntarily pulled off to the side, more just absolutely taken out of this Grand Prix, but we're going to stay on board with ourselves for the meantime. We'll take a look at a replay of exactly what happened in a minute. We've got the double slipstream and DRS on Kvyat and Kubica. Can we go all the way around the outside of the two of them? What a move it would be, but no, we lock up into turn 1. And it was a little bit speculative from ourselves, but nearly pulled off the move. We're going to get DRS once more here on the road to turn 3, but it is very, very difficult to make a move into turn 3. Especially when Robert Kubica up ahead has also got DRS. So we're going to have to sit behind for the meantime as Robert looks at a move on Kvyat once more. But has to stick behind. We're possibly going to take a look down the inside of turn 4, but then think better of it. And we've now got Carlos Sainz on our tail. Now that moved us up to P14, that incident between Magnussen and Perez. So we're not too far off a points paying position with, of course, Kvyat in P11. But now we're going to take a look at exactly what happened. So Raikkonen got past Perez when he was slowing down, and Perez just slowed down so much that he absolutely wiped out Magnussen. So we're on board with the Dane here. He just had nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go. You've got a feel for Magnussen. There's nothing that he could do. But quite why there was no safety car after that, I'm not quite sure. So, fast forwarding another lap, and at the end of lap 4, we are coming in for our one and only stop of the afternoon. Getting rid of those ultra soft tyres for a set of the super softs. So, we've only gone 4 laps into this Grand Prix, we've still got 9 to go. But the super softs are just a lot more durable around this circuit, as we have to wait an age to be released from our pit box, or so it seems. And we are still behind Robert Kubica. We can't even get ahead of a bloody Williams. I mean, it's not looking good for us. Our straight line speed is not great at all. And now we've got Alexander Albon, who has got his tyres up to temperature, having already made his one and only pit stop on our tail. And he's going to take a look at us into turn 3, goes down the inside, but he's run out of track and he has taken himself out of the Grand Prix. He just ran himself completely out of road. We left him room down the inside, I'd like to think. And that is another car out of this Grand Prix. So we're going to take a look at the replay at half speed. So we leave him the room down the inside, and Albon just didn't sort of, get out of the throttle at all. He tried to sort of go for a move on us right to the last second, and that has sparked a safety car by the looks of it, which has done us over completely because we haven't even reached the final corner yet, which means we've got to go slower down the pit straight. Meanwhile, everybody else is pitting, so is, of course, already at a lower speed. Basically what it means is we're screwed and we're probably going to lose a few positions in at the pit stops. So yeah, we've got to catch up to the safety car queue whilst going slower than we usually would. And then Daniel Kvyat has also retired. So a terrible lap for the Toro Rosso cars. And maybe there was an incident involving him which sparked a safety car as well. So we come across the start-finish line, and now we're going to see exactly where we lie in the order. And we are behind Daniel Ricciardo. So the man that we overtook at exactly this place on lap 1 on the track, we're now behind, despite being ahead of him for most of the Grand Prix. So yeah, that really has done us over. And we're going to take a look at the other incident that possibly sparked the safety car. So Sebastian Vettel coming to blows with Daniel Kvyat, who was travelling slowly through the final section of track, much like Sergio Perez was. And there you can see, quite clumsy from Vettel, but also understandable seeing as Kvyat was travelling so slowly. And now the order under the safety car is a lead for Valtteri Bottas. So Vettel has damaged his car, and he's also lost the lead of this Grand Prix. So it's the Mercedes man leading the way, the man that won the real-life Azerbaijan Grand Prix, ahead of Max Verstappen. So those two pitted a lap later than Sebastian Vettel, and that's put him in a great position to take the win of this Grand Prix, you'd have to say. Then it's Lewis Hamilton, who's made up one position from his starting place. Then we have got Charles Leclerc in P5, and Pierre Gasly is down in P6. So after starting up in P3, it's not been a great race so far for the Frenchman, who finds himself at the back of the front pack. Then we've got Kimi Raikkonen, who's putting in a stellar performance at the moment in P7. Then behind him is one of the racing points of Lance Stroll, the only remaining racing point in this race. And yeah, that is your top 8 for the meantime. We're currently sat in at P14, but at the end of lap 7, just over the halfway stage of the Grand Prix. The safety car is coming in and we're preparing to resume racing, and we're almost side by side with Ricciardo. We decide to bolt early, and just as we go to green flag conditions, we overtake the Renault car. Absolutely perfect restart for ourselves, which is not something I say very often, and we go all the way down the inside of 2 cars, including our teammate Carlos Sainz, and that gets us up into P11. We've made up 3 positions in, well, less than 3 corners, so I cannot complain at that whatsoever. And we're now just 1 place off a points-paying position. We were aware on the restart, which is, as I say, not something that happens very often on F1 2018 for myself. We're up 3 positions and now on the gearbox of the Haas car of Romain Grosjean. So there's a few cars travelling quite slowly ahead, possibly headed by Sebastian Vettel with that wing damage, because we're really sticking with this pack up ahead. It's not just Grosjean we're sticking with, it's the whole pack in front. And as we go towards the end of lap 8, you can see that the front 2 of Bottas and Verstappen have already pulled out a big margin on P3. Bottas looking as if he's going to stroll to victory here in Baku. Of course, as I said earlier, the place where he won the real-life Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And Kimi Raikkonen, the man that was running in P7, has had an engine blowout. Terrible luck for the Finn. He was looking so good this afternoon, but he is now out of this Grand Prix. And as we go back to the front pack, you can see that Lewis Hamilton has made his way past Sebastian Vettel, who is really holding up this pack. It's good for us because we're really sticking with everybody from P4 downwards. And now his teammate Charles Leclerc is surely going to be let past him, but no, he's still behind him as they go into that tight, twisty middle sector. But come the end of lap 9, it looks as if Leclerc is trying to make his way past, and also Pierre Gasly trying to get past Vettel. So Vettel and Leclerc really jostling for position, but the Monegasque driver does eventually get past him and into P4 in this Grand Prix now. Meanwhile, we've got Pierre Gasly looking for a way past the German driver as we go into the T-cam view. Is he going to be able to get back past, just get past him, not back past, just get past. And Sebastian Vettel, who started this race on pole position, is absolutely falling down the order like a stone. And sure enough, come the end of lap 10, he's about to lose another position to Pierre Gasly, but that Honda engine doesn't quite have the oomph at the end of the straight by the looks of it. They're almost side by side at the start of lap 11, and Gasly has the superior grip into the first corner, and he's later on the brakes, and that was quite a brave move around the outside from Gasly, so fair play. And next up on the Sebastian Vettel hit list is Lance Stroll, who finds himself in P7 as a result of good fortune and also some good driving from himself. And he's got to fancy his chances against Vettel. Better aerodynamically in the bulk of the middle sector and better in a straight line on the straights, of course. So, yeah, Stroll looking pretty good for him at the moment. But we're going to take a look at the order in front of Vettel. So it's Leclerc, followed by Lewis Hamilton. Then we have got Max Verstappen in P2, with that man, Valtteri Bottas, in an absolute league of his own at the moment. Nobody is near him whatsoever. Verstappen's probably about 3 or 4 seconds back, and considering the safety car only came in about 3 or 4 laps ago, it's a hell of an effort from the Finnish driver. Back on board with ourselves now, and we find ourselves in P10 in this Grand Prix after that DNF from Kimi Raikkonen. And with just over 2 laps left in this Grand Prix, we're pretty much battling over P6. Of course, this train headed by Sebastian Vettel. Can our Renault engine provide enough power to get past the Ferrari-powered Romain Grosjean? We've now got DRS active at the end of lap 11. And we're going to use it to hopefully good effect on the Frenchman. But I think we're just a little bit too far back. And of course, Grosjean's going to get the DRS on the drivers in front of him. And it's pretty much a free-for-all as we go towards turn 1 at the start of lap 12. Vettel has relinquished P6 to Lance Stroll. And it's a brilliant afternoon for the Canadian. Meanwhile, we've got Nico Hülkenberg also looking for a move on his fellow countryman. And now we get onto the DRS Once more on the run down to turn 3. It's going to be tight between Vettel and Hülkenberg, and we're just too far back to make a lunge on Romain Grosjean by the looks of it. And yes, we're going to stick behind him, but no, we got out the throttle, but not enough, and we've run into the back of the Haas car and taken a chunk of our front wing off. Careless driving from ourselves. Not something we tend to do very often. Take a piece of our front wing off like that, especially in a short race format as well. It's not as if we were really losing concentration, but we evidently did on lap 12 of this Grand Prix, although we are still keeping pace with Grosjean. So I don't think we've done too much damage to the wing, which, fingers crossed, stays intact for the rest of the Grand Prix. And as we go through this middle sector, I'm not really finding any sort of payback from that. So we're looking alright at the moment. Of course, we've only just got one more lap at the end of this lap in the Grand Prix, and we're late on the brakes into turn 15, and we actually get a really, really good exit off there. We tend to run it over the curb quite a lot, and that time we managed to gain time by sort of making the circuit as short as possible, and also not running it into the wall on the exit. And the same went for turn 16, which gives us a good opportunity to get the run on Grosjean. We've got plenty of ERS to use as we go down this straight now. Are we going to look for a move on the Frenchman into turn 1 on the final lap of the Grand Prix? We're also closing up on Nico Hülkenberg, who has lost DRS up ahead by the looks of it. I'm going to squeeze between the two of them, and we've somehow made a double overtake at the start of the final lap. And we made a little bit of contact with Grosjean, but it hasn't hampered him at all, because he's still battling with Hülkenberg, and it looks as if he's actually got past the German. And they're still jostling behind. Hülkenberg's now up into P9. But all that jostling between them means that we should have P8 in the bag. Can we stay with Sebastian Vettel and possibly make an overtake on the final straight? We'll have to wait and see. Meanwhile, we have got Valtteri Bottas coming home to claim his second victory of this modded career mode. 25 points go to Valtteri Bottas, as does the fastest lap. So for one extra point with Verstappen in P2. And now we come through the final corner to have one last run at Sebastian Vettel. We're in rich mix, we're in overtake ERS. Can we get the run on him to the line? We're going to try our utmost to get P7 in this Grand Prix and gain a couple of extra points with Lando Norris here. And can we do it on the run to the line? I think we're just too far back. If the race was one more lap, we would have been able to get Vettel, but it isn't, so we haven't, and we're going to have to settle for P8. A very fortunate P8, you'd have to say. A lot of things went our way in that Grand Prix, but that man had no luck whatsoever. He made his own luck, did Valtteri Bottas. 26 points went to him. Of course, got a little bit of luck, I guess, with the safety car, but still looked a lot faster than anybody else on the track. And as I say, the fastest lap goes to him as well, which gives him 26 points in the championship. With Verstappen taking home 18, Hamilton 15, and then we've got Leclerc and Gasly ahead of Lance Stroll. And then we've got our pack of cars, with Nico Hülkenberg actually finishing ahead of Romain Grosjean in the end. And so close for Robert Kubica, who managed P11 in this Grand Prix. And 4 DNFs we had. 4. 3 of which probably would have finished above us. Raikkonen, Magnussen and Perez. And of course Albon DNF'd by actually battling us. So yeah, got pretty fortunate there, but now looking at the drivers' standings, you can see it is all Mercedes at the top, just like real life, but Bottas moves back ahead of Lewis Hamilton to top the championship with Verstappen in P3, so it's looking just like the real life F1 standings pretty much, although then Gasly is in P4 ahead of Vettel and Leclerc, and we slip down one position behind Charles Leclerc into P7, with Lance Stroll having a very good weekend. On to the constructor standings then. It is of course Mercedes on top, ahead of Red Bull, with Ferrari in third, and then a massive gap down to McLaren in P4. We're nearly 100 points behind Mercedes, and we've had 3 rounds of this championship. Crazy. But then we've got Haas, Racing Point, Renault and Alfa Romeo, with Toro Rosso and Williams yet to get off the mark. But that just about rounds it off for this Grand Prix and this episode of the modded career mode. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, do make sure to leave a like down below, comment what you thought, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Do take care. Bye bye.